Hello, how are you doing? I hope you're doing great today. And I wanted to make you feel even better. I'm going to read this book for you. This is the little kid's first big book of space from National Geographic Kids. When I was a kid, I loved reading about space, Earth, Sun, universe. So I think it might be interesting for my kid. So I bought this book for her. But she doesn't show that much interest for it now. Maybe it will change soon. Okay. Chapter 1. Looking up from Earth. Sun. The sun is a star. It is the closest star to Earth, the planet you live on. The sun is very hot. Its warmth and light keep plants and animals on Earth alive, including you. The sun, planets, moons, and different kinds of space rocks are all part of our solar system. The sun is at the center of solar system. This blast from the surface of the sun is called a solar flare. The sun is about 93 million miles away from Earth. If you could drive to the sun in a car, it would take more than 170 years to get there. Earth travels around the sun in a big circle called an orbit. It takes a whole year for Earth to travel all the way around the sun. A year on Earth is the time it takes Earth to orbit the sun. 8 big planets orbit the sun, including Earth. The sun is huge. More than 1 million Earths could fit inside it. During the day, the place where you see the sun changes. In the morning, the sun comes up. This is sunrise, when dark nighttime turns into bright daytime. You will always see sunrise in the direction called the east. By lunchtime, the sun is high up in the sky. In the late afternoon, the sun is low in the sky. Soon it is sunset, as the sun disappears from sight. Then it is nighttime again. Do not look directly in the sun. It is so bright that it can hurt your eyes. Sunset is always in the direction called the west. Earth. A planet is a big round object in space that orbits a star. Earth is your home. The sun is your star. Earth is always moving. As it orbits the sun, it also spins around like a top. When you spin around on your feet, you probably get dizzy, but you cannot feel Earth's spin. Most of Earth is covered by oceans. The blue areas are water. Earth is the fifth largest planet in the solar system. Earth spins at 1000 miles an hour. Earth is the third planet in orbit around the Sun. During the day, it is light outside and you can see the sun. As Earth spins, the place where you are on the planet turns away from the sun. That is when it gets dark outside. As Earth keeps spinning, you soon see the sun again. It takes Earth 1 day and 1 night, 24 hours, to spin all the way around. When it is summer where you live, your part of Earth is tilted toward the sun. When it is winter where you live, your part of Earth is tilted away from the sun. A strong, invisible force called gravity pulls everything on Earth down. Gravity keeps you and all the things around you from floating up into the sky. When you jump up from the ground, gravity is what pulls you back down. Earth is a special planet. It is the only place we know of where there is life, plants and animals, including people. Moon. You can often spot Earth's moon when you look into the sky at night. The moon orbits Earth just like Earth orbits the sun. The moon is rocky and cold. The moon looks bright, but is actually a dark place. It looks bright only when the sun's light reflects or bounces off the surface. It takes about 27 days for the moon to orbit Earth. The shape of the moon you see changes. These changes are called the phases of the moon. The phases change as the moon orbits Earth. Sometimes the moon has the shape of a banana. At other times it looks like half of a circle. There are times when the moon looks almost like a full circle. About once a month, it looks like a bright round ball. The same side of the moon always faces Earth. The only place in space on which people have landed is the moon. Astronauts landed on the moon 6 times. You can see where in the picture above. A moon lander carried astronauts to the surface of the moon from a bigger spacecraft that stays in orbit. Earth is surrounded by air called the atmosphere. The moon has no atmosphere. An astronaut on the moon must wear a spacesuit. The spacesuit has air to breathe. It also keeps the astronaut warm. Meteors and meteorites. Many chunks of rock float around in space. Sometimes one zooms into Earth's atmosphere toward the planet's surface. That rock is called a meteor. Usually, a meteor burns up before it can reach the ground. But sometimes a meteor reaches Earth's surface. If it hits the ground, it is called a meteorite. A hot, glowing piece of space rock falling toward Earth is sometimes called a shooting star. Chapter 2. Earth's Neighbors. Rocky planets and gas giants. To be called a planet, an object has to be round and it must orbit a star. Nothing else has its exact same orbit. There are 8 big planets that orbit the Sun. The 4 planets closest to the Sun are made mostly of rock. They are called terrestrial or rocky planets. The 4 planets farthest from the Sun are big balls of gas. They do not have a solid surface. Mercury. Mercury is the planet closest to the Sun. It is the smallest of the 8 big planets. It orbits the Sun faster than any other planet. 1 year on Earth, the time it takes to orbit the Sun, is 365 days. 1 year on Mercury is only 88 days. During the day on Mercury, it gets very hot. At night, it gets very cold. Mercury doesn't have a moon. Mercury is hard to see from Earth because it is so close to the bright Sun. In March 2011, Messenger became the first spacecraft to orbit Mercury. Messenger sent photograph of Mercury to scientists on Earth. This is a crater. A crater is a big, bowl-shaped hole on the surface of a planet or moon. Venus. Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. It has an atmosphere of thick clouds. The clouds holding heat like a blanket, making Venus very hot. The sun's light reflects off Venus's clouds. That makes Venus look very bright. Only the moon is brighter in Earth's night sky. Mercury and Venus are the only big planets in our solar system that do not have moons. Venus is the closest planet to Earth. Magellan, a spaceship sent to Venus, was able to peek beneath the planet's thick clouds. It took photographs of the surface of Venus. 1 day on Venus is much longer than 1 day on Earth because Venus spins more slowly. Magellan was carried from Earth into space by another spacecraft called the Space Shuttle. Magellan showed that most of Venus is covered in lava, the rocks that come from volcanoes. Earth spins counterclockwise or toward the left. Venus spins clockwise or toward the right. Mars. Mars is more like Earth than any other planet in the solar system. Scientists think there may have been flowing rivers on Mars long ago. They are curious about where the river water is now. It may be frozen beneath the surface. Mars looks reddish because there is a lot of iron in the rocks on its surface. Iron is a metal that rusts, turning red. The huge volcanoes on Mars may be the biggest in the solar system. One day on Mars is about the same length of time as one day on Earth. Mars has two very small moons. They are shaped like potatoes. The moons are called Phobos and Deimos. Pretend you're standing on Phobos. When you look up, Mars would cover a huge part of the sky. That's because Mars is so close to its moon. Now pretend you're standing on Earth's moon. When you look up, Earth doesn't cover as much of the sky. That's because Earth is far away from its moon. Several spaceships have traveled to Mars, carrying equipment to explore the planet. Robots, called rovers, roll across the surface taking photographs, looking for water and studying rocks. Jupiter. Jupiter is our solar system's biggest planet. It is so big that all the other planets in the solar system could fit inside it. The huge storm on Jupiter is called the Great Red Spot. The storm is like a hurricane on Earth, but Jupiter's storm has been blowing for hundreds of years. It takes almost 12 Earth years for Jupiter to completely orbit the Sun. Earth has one moon, Mars has two moons, Jupiter has at least 63 moons. Jupiter's four biggest moons are Europa, Callisto, Io, and Ganymede. Europa may have a deep ice-covered ocean. The Callisto moon and the planet Mercury are about the same size. The moon Io is covered by active volcanoes. Ganymede is the biggest moon in our whole solar system. Scientists are very curious about Europa. Ice covers its surface. Scientists think that there may be an ocean underneath the ice. A spaceship named Galileo carried a smaller spacecraft called the probe. The probe went down into Jupiter's atmosphere. It measured temperatures and other things for about an hour before it was destroyed by storms. A spacecraft called Juno is filled with instruments that send information back to scientists on Earth. It is the first spacecraft to see beneath the thick clouds that surround Jupiter. Saturn. Look at the sparkly rings around Saturn. Saturn's rings are the biggest and brightest in our whole solar system. The rings are made up of billions of bits of icy rocks. Some bits are as tiny as specks of dust. Others are the size of huge mountains. Sunlight reflects off the ice in Saturn's rings and makes them sparkle. Saturn has at least 53 moons. Here just a few. Saturn's biggest moon is called Titan. The word Titan means giant. Titan is bigger than the planet Mercury. Saturn also has several very small moons. Walking all the way around one of the smallest moons would only take as long as walking around 5 city blocks. Uranus. Uranus is tipped onto its side. Scientists think that a long time ago, some huge space object the size of a planet may have crashed into Uranus. That crash caused Uranus to tip. It takes 84 Earth years for Uranus to orbit the Sun. Uranus spins in the opposite direction that Earth does. Icy Uranus is the coldest of the 8 big planets. No one knows for sure how many moons orbit Uranus, but it has at least 27. There may be more that people who study space, called astronomers, have not yet found. A spacecraft called Voyager 2 is the only spacecraft that has flown near Uranus. It was close to the planet for only 5.5 hours as it traveled farther into space. Neptune. Neptune is farther from the Sun than any of the other big planets. The weather on the big planet is wild. Winds blow more than 1,000 miles an hour. Remember the great red spot of Jupiter? Neptune also had a big storm like that. On Neptune, it was called the Great Dark Spot. Neptune has many storms that come and go. It takes Neptune 165 years to travel all the way around the Sun. Triton is Neptune's largest moon. It is one of the coldest places in our solar system. Triton has volcano-like eruptions that burst from openings in the surface. Gas and dust explode up high, freeze instantly, and fall back down onto the moon like snow. Neptune is too far away to see from Earth without a telescope. Chapter 3. Earth's other neighbors. Asteroid Belt. A ring of rocks orbits the Sun between Mars and Jupiter. The rocks are asteroids. Thousands of them race around the Sun in a ring called the asteroid belt. Asteroids are kind of like leftovers. They are leftover bits and pieces of rock and metal in space that did not become planets or moons. The asteroid belt separates the rocky planets and the gas planets in space. Asteroids up close. Most asteroids are quite small. Some are less than a mile around, while others are more than 500 miles around. One asteroid named Ida surprised scientists by having a moon, which they named Dactyl. Ceres. The word dwarf means small. Dwarf planets in our solar system are smaller than the 8 big planets. Ceres is one of 5 dwarf planets. Ceres is the closest dwarf planet to the Sun. It is found in the asteroid belt. Pluto. Far beyond the asteroid belt and Ceres and past Neptune is another belt of objects. It is called the Kuiper Belt. This is where you can find the dwarf planet Pluto. Pluto used to be called a planet, but recently scientists decided it is too small. They now say it is a dwarf planet and that there are only 8 big planets in our solar system. It takes Pluto 248 years to orbit the Sun. The moon, Charon, is about half as big as Pluto. That is a very big moon. Pluto has 3 smaller moons too. The same side of Charon always faces Pluto, as the moon orbits the planet just as Earth's moon does. Haumea, Iris, and Makemake are 3 more dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt. Scientists think that a long time ago something smashed into Haumea. That crash may have caused chunks of Haumea to fly off, becoming the 2 moons, Namaka and Hiyaka. Comets. A comet is sort of like a huge dirty snowball. It is made of icy gas and rock. Comets have huge orbits around the Sun. Sometimes a comet travels close enough to the Sun to begin to melt. When that happens, a tail forms behind it. A comet's tail can be very long and beautiful. It sometimes stretches for millions of miles. Some comets are found in the Kuiper Belt. They take hundreds of years to orbit the Sun. Other comets are found far beyond Neptune. Those comets can take millions of years to orbit the Sun. Chapter 4. Far, far away. Universe. The universe is everything in our solar system and outside it. The universe is so huge that it is hard to even imagine its size. There are many amazing things in the universe. Stars and planets make up other solar systems far from our own stars. On a clear night with no clouds or city lights, you can see about 3,000 stars in the sky, but there are billions more than you cannot see. Stars create energy that makes them shine. They are made of hot gases that are held together by the star's gravity. The stars have different temperatures. The hottest stars are blue, the coolest stars are red. Yellow stars, like Earth's sun, have a temperature between blue and red stars. The closest star to Earth is the Sun. It takes about 8 minutes for the Sun's light to reach Earth. The next closest star to Earth is Proxima Centauri. Light from that star takes more than 4 years to reach Earth. It would take 19,000 years for a spacecraft to reach Proxima Centauri from Earth. So, even though it's the next closest star to Earth, it is very far away. Constellations. For a long time, people have drawn imaginary or pretend lines from star to star, creating pictures and groups of stars. These groups are called constellations. Constellations are like maps in the sky. There are 88 of them. The Big Dipper is an asterism, a group of stars smaller than a constellation. The yellow lines show where the Big Dipper is inside the constellation Ursa Major. Galaxies. A galaxy is a group of stars, gas and dust held together by gravity. Galaxies have different shapes. Here are photographs of the three main kinds: spiral, irregular, and elliptical. There are billions of galaxies in the universe. Spiral galaxies are the shape of a pinwheel. Irregular galaxies do not have particular shapes. Elliptical galaxies are egg-shaped. Milky Way. Earth is in a galaxy called the Milky Way. It is a spiral galaxy. The Milky Way is huge. There are millions of stars in the Milky Way. When you look at the stars at night, all the ones you can see are in the Milky Way. Earth is located right here on one of the Milky Way's arms. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest to the Milky Way galaxy. Nebula. Stars are born or form and last for billions of years. When they lose energy, they die. When some kinds of stars die, they explode. All the leftover stardust is called a nebula. New stars are born inside a nebula too. Gases and dust pull together and form young stars. The Helix Nebula looks like a knife. Black holes. At the center of the Milky Way galaxy there is a black hole. Black holes are invisible. They cannot be seen. A black hole is an area of space with gravity so strong that anything too close to it cannot escape. Not even light can escape from black holes. That is why we cannot see them. There is a black hole in the middle of most galaxies.